What happens if you file a proxy statement or registration statement with the SEC, but you don't have all the information you need to fill out the summary compensation table? You file a Form 8K when you do, if permitted under the SEC rules. Today on Zippy Point. I'm Brock Romanek, and I'm a big fan of use. Item 5.02F of Form 8K requires companies to file a Form 8K once there is a payment, grant, award decision, or other occurrence that results in a previously omitted NEO salary or bonus amount being calculable. So in this summary compensation table, you have disclosure about the compensation for the 5 named executive officers. Those are their NEOs. And if you don't have some information that you need for that table in those categories, you'll have a footnote to that table indicating so. When you have the footnote to the summary compensation table saying there's information omitted, it's because instruction 1 to item 402C2 Roman numeral 4 of Regulation SK allows you to omit the information, but in doing so, it requires you to include a footnote indicating that within 4 business days of the amount being calculable, you'll have an 8K being filed. The trigger date, you file the Form 8K within 4 business days of the amount being calculable. And it's typically when you have board approval or a compensation committee approval that serves as the trigger date. The board or the comp committee met and has finally figured out the formula, the payout amounts that there were holes when they filed the proxy statement. This trigger date is what you put on the cover as the date of the report for the Form 8K. In terms of exhibits for these 8Ks filed under 5.02F, you often don't see any. I don't see any at all. That's because companies aren't filing excerpts from their earlier proxies with the footnote saying that there's a hole that's going to be filled later. And there's nothing else to file typically. There's no contracts or agreements, hence no exhibits. So what to disclose in the body of these 8Ks? Not only do you disclose the actual salary and bonus information in the 8K, but you must provide a recalculated total compensation amount, that important column at the end that includes the previously omitted salary and bonus amounts, as well as a pay ratio calculated under item 402U of Regulation SK, so long as the omitted salary or bonus amounts for the NEO become calculable in whole. If you're sort of doing this piecemeal and you can't figure out your final pay ratio yet, you don't have to include the final pay ratio in this 8K. You don't have to include a complete summary compensation table or any update to the CD&A in the 8K, but all the examples I've seen do include a complete summary compensation table that puts all the information in context and ensures that the 8K isn't misleading. So here's an example of one of these 8Ks. This is the body of it. I don't have the intro paragraphs. And then by chance, this company happens to have only 3 NEOs. That's pretty uncommon, but you get a sense of what this is like. Disclosure leading up to that summary compensation table, you can see that the formula by which payouts were made is disclosed. And then you can also see that the company in the 8K has disclosed the page number of the proxy on which the summary compensation table can be found. That's pretty rare. It's a nice touch. I like that. You can also see that the trigger date for this is the date that the board, based on the compensation committee's recommendation, approved the payout. So this is a board approval. I should mention that all the 8Ks I have seen filed under item 502F actually mention item 502F in the body of the 8K as an explanation for why the 8K is being filed. You don't often see this for other 8Ks being filed under the other sub-items of 5.02 or actually under the other items of 8K in general. Here's another example of an 8K under this item. This company omitted bonuses from the original summary compensation table, and it also includes salary increases for the NEOs. So apparently there was no formal bonus plan because a formula isn't described in this 8K. And there also isn't a mention of what page the summary compensation table was on in the original proxy. That, like I mentioned, that was optional in my prior example. The trigger date here is the compensation committee approval, not the full board. And here it's flashed to the company's proxy statement. And you see here in footnote 3 that the company discloses that an 8K will be filed with the bonus information within 4 business days of it being known, which it subsequently did. Here's another example where an 8K is filed because bonus information was omitted from an IPO registration statement of Form S1. As I mentioned, that's permitted by instruction 1 to item 402C24. Like all the other examples, the full summary compensation table is included, but apparently there's no formula to disclose for this company. The 8K does state that the non-equity plan compensation and total columns have been updated. That's a nice touch to mention the actual columns of the summary compensation table that were being changed. I don't see that in many of the 8Ks. This last example, here's another 8K that's being filed because the summary compensation table is being updated because the original Form S filing for the company's IPO didn't include some bonus information. This 8K doesn't specify the columns that are being updated. Like I said, that's optional. But this 8K does include 3 full paragraphs of how the bonuses were calculated by the board under a senior executive cash incentive bonus plan. These 8Ks are signed just like any other 8K. They're signed by an officer authorized to sign on behalf of the company. And then the SEC rules require that a manual signature be retained for 5 years under Rule 302B of Regulation ST.